morning. Welcome to day 69, April 27th. It's 9 o'clock, and I just now got started. I just now walked up from the side trail of Gravel Springs Hut. And if you saw my last video, I was not doing well at the end because I had discovered that I had tore my feet up pretty good hiking in those wet, darn tough socks. I ended up, final blister count was 5 blisters on the left foot, 4 on the right. That's I completely caught off guard by that because I had blisters starting out from Springer, but after the first 250 miles, I didn't get any more new blisters, and I thought I'd gotten up some good calluses, and I haven't had any foot problems blister wise for a while. Even when I bought these new oboe shoes in Damascus, didn't have any trouble with them blister wise. But I was just about every day I was wearing the Injinji toe liners and the same pair of darn tough socks. But then, as you know, Tuesday came along and cold rain, my feet got saturated. So, by the way, if you're going to buy oboes, don't bother paying the extra money for the waterproof ones, because they only lasted a half a day. Walking in that rain, they were saturated. So, oboes, that's a failure. I don't know, I know all shoes are made in Vietnam, China, but whatever waterproofing fabric you're using, or seam sealer, it ain't getting it done. Been walking with wet socks Wednesday, and after Wednesday I didn't have any problems. I can't remember if I had any, if I wore the sock liners or not, but unfortunately chose not to wear them yesterday, and I ended up with the 9 blisters. Just I guess wet shoes and socks and the 28 miles and a warm day did me in. So I was really concerned that I wasn't going to be able to walk today. I might even have to zero at the shelter, which that would be like one of the last things I'd ever want to do, is zero at a shelter. So I got up this morning. There's a thru hiker named Now, really good guy, and when I was describing my foot problems, he asked me if I'd tried Leuco tape, which is something I'd never heard of, but apparently it's well known in the medical field. I would try to spell it, but I'd probably get it wrong. Something close to Leuko. And so he offered me some, and I told him I'd take him up on that. So he tore me off about a foot long strip, his roll, and left it for me when he left out this morning. So once I got packed up, cooked my breakfast, waited till very last, put on the Leuco tape. I decided not to drain any of the blisters, and in the past I had used the needle and thread method, leaving the thread in to let the pus weep out. I decided not to do that this time, because I just decided that the less manipulation, the better off I would be. And most of those blisters I walked several miles on yesterday, not even knowing they were there, except for the one under the ball of my right foot. It's right behind my middle toes. That one was hurting me pretty bad yesterday. I'd actually stopped and put some of the cloth tape that I had on there, but I didn't get it quite in the right spot, and I think the damage is already done anyway. But as you can see, I am walking. I got 13 miles to go to a hostel, or I can go 19 to a shelter. Just have to see how I'm feeling. But I got my feet taped up with the Luco tape, and I got my sock liners on, and we're walking. Another thing that happened last night, we knew it was going to rain, and rain heavy during the night, and so I was glad to be in a shelter. Had my mat and stuff laid out, and there were 3 other people in the shelter. I'm sorry, 4. 2 through hikers and 2 section hikers. One of the section hikers was in the middle, and right after it got dark, a little bit after 8, he went to sleep, and within a few minutes he was snoring. He was the first one to sleep, and he started snoring almost immediately. And I was beside him, but I put my head opposite, put it to the back of the shelter, and I put my earplugs in. I took my Aleve PM, but after sitting up for 30 minutes, listening to his snoring get worse and worse, I made a command decision and got out and set my tent up. Fortunately, I had spotted a flat spot a few yards behind the bear box, the bear locker, and I just grabbed my tent, went down there and sat it up, and came back and got my mat and sleeping bag and everything. It went back down there. Shortly thereafter, another through hiker came down and set up his tent beside me. He just said there's no way, and we both ended up getting some sleep. I'm sure that guy did too, but apparently the other 2 guys that stayed in there are heavier sleepers than we were. But if you know that you snore really loud, as a courtesy to everybody else, you should tent. I don't care if it is going to rain. And as you can see, rain it did. Heavier than this at times, but I managed to stay dry in my tent. As you know, I've spent many nights in my tent in the rain. But this morning, he's just talking. No acknowledgement that he ran 2 people out of the shelter. And he tried to engage me in conversation. I was filtering my water at the time. I just focused on what I was doing. He moved on to somebody else. He's also one of these guys that just, he can't be quiet, he has to talk constantly. And those guys drive me nuts anyway. Just because there's some empty airspace doesn't mean you fill it with some random comment. I guess you think you need to impress people with your knowledge of the trail, all the trips you've done. Must just come naturally. But when you're a snorer and you run 2 people out of the shelter, it just negates all your credibility as far as I'm concerned. So enough of that. I'm actually walking, as you can see, despite 9 blisters, feet wrapped up in Luco tape, raining, going uphill. At least it's not cold and windy yet. But North Virginia, she's just waiting to lay that on me at the right time. So, with that, this is Reboot heading north. Well, it's 1 o'clock and I've done almost 10 miles. I just checked, it was 9.6 from the hut where I stayed, and I just passed a little milepost that said that the park boundary is 2/10 of a mile away, which I'm already here. That was more like 1/10. But just like that, folks, I am in and out of the Shenandoah National Park. And I gotta say, it's just meh. Sorry, Shenandoah. And it's probably because I had 2 bad days of weather. Really swayed my opinion. But it seems to me this park is catered more toward people who are driving along the Skyline Drive. Although I've seen a lot of section hikers, weekenders, and people doing all of Virginia, people doing just the Shenandoah Park. So, but I made it all the way through the park and didn't see a bear, which I really didn't want to see a bear. So, and I only heard of 1 bear sighting. Landfill said he saw one. It's 2:45 and I made it to US 522, which goes in the front royal off to the left there. And somebody left some trail magic here, some water and some apples and some caffeine-free Pepsi and a jar of peanut butter and a bag for garbage. So if you did that, appreciate it. I think I've decided that it's going to be best for me to go to the hostel. Well, I get out of the Shenandoahs and I see my first bear. Barely got a glimpse of it off to the right as it was running away very fast. It did look kind of small, so I was concerned at first it might be a cub, but I don't see anything else around, thank goodness. So check that off the list. Saw a bear. This is going to be the wrap up for day 69. I've made it to Jim and Molly Denton shelter. I just got my water about 1/10 of a mile back. It's a nice spring, and getting ready to head down the trail here. There's a lot of people down there, so I'm not going to be able to film. I don't want to film people without their permission. So, but it's supposed to be a nice double-decker shelter. I need to get my tent out really and try to let it dry out some, so we'll see what's going on. I already see some tents set up, but did 18.5 miles today on 9 blisters, and I was in pain most of the day, but actually my right foot feels better today coming into camp than it did yesterday, so just got to keep an eye on them and make sure that they don't get infected. So, but happy with my progress today, so it's all good in the woods.
Oh, great! Yeah, I
This is the shelter. It has a metal roof, and it's a really nice shelter with a porch and a sun shower over there. But there's a pavilion over here to my right, and there's people sitting there. So. I picked that spot right there.